There's been a lot of focus recently on Oregon's criminal justice system, specifically police and prosecutors. Often overlooked in that discussion is a shortage of public defenders. Simply put, there just aren't enough lawyers to do the job. As a result, right now, there are more than 1,000 criminal defendants statewide who don't have legal representation, even though the Constitution guarantees it. It's a big deal to you and I because cases are being pushed back, justice is being delayed, and in some cases, defendants charged with serious crimes are being released from jail, again, because they don't have a lawyer. So to better understand this crisis, we spoke with those directly impacted. Will DeWeese admits he's outmatched. It's not a fair fight. The 43-year-old handyman has no legal training or law degree. Yet for 3 weeks, DeWeese sat in the Washington County Jail on burglary and theft charges with no lawyer. He was on his own to challenge prosecutors and navigate a complex legal system.
You don't know what's happening because they're speaking in a language that, unless you're trained, you don't know what it means, and they don't take the time to explain it.
Statewide, there are nearly 1,300 criminal defendants without legal representation. They haven't been appointed a lawyer. You have a constitutional right to have representation.
Yes, sir.
You're not getting it?
No, sir.
What does that mean?
It means I'm scared. It means I'm nervous. I'm being pushed through the system.
The state's public defender system, which provides lawyers for those who can't afford them, has been underfunded for decades. But a backlog of cases from the pandemic has pushed it to a breaking point.
We are at a crisis in our public defense system.
In Multnomah County, defendants are routinely arraigned and then have their hearing dates postponed in hopes a public defender will be available several weeks later.
I went to court like 5 times and they're like, nope, no attorney for you.
Eric Lane, who's facing a single count of felon in possession of a firearm in Washington County, got so fed up waiting for a public defender that he decided to act as his own attorney.
So I've been here since July 27th. I went 40 days without an attorney, and I was like, out of desperation, I said, can I represent myself?
A week later, Lane withdrew his request for self-representation after realizing it was just too hard to get case files and review evidence in jail. Not to mention, he was in over his head.
I'm like desperate for help.
Not having legal representation right after an arrest can cause a cascade of problems for criminal defendants. Evidence can be lost or erased, and witnesses may become difficult to track down. What have you lost in not having representation in these initial few weeks of your case?
You make me cry. I've lost time with my kids, time with my mom.
DeWeese believes he would have been released from jail sooner if he had a lawyer. He worries about his 2 children, missing work and unpaid bills.
The toll is heavy, man. The price is heavy. It's me not being there to work and help and take care of the family in all the ways I normally do. It makes it 10 times harder for everybody else.
On October 5th, DeWeese finally got a lawyer. A judge appointed him a public defender nearly 3 weeks after his arrest.
Obviously, I've made mistakes. I'm here, but I'm not a bad guy. I'm not hurting people. I have nothing bad on my record, and you know, I just want to go home like anybody else. I just want to go home.
I really can't speak to how frustrating it is, you know.
Jay Blake can't seem to catch a break.
Yeah.
On September 27th, a vandal smashed the front windows of his family-owned business on Southwest Salmon Street. It was the 4th time that B Tailors and Cleaners had been hit in the past 2 years.
I'm just sick of it. I can't explain how it's hard enough to run a business in downtown Portland, and to have this go on, it's just, you just want to give up. Honestly, you just say enough. I can't do it anymore.
A string of at least 5 different downtown businesses reported being vandalized late on September 27th. The broken glass would require nearly $10,000 in repairs. Portland police arrested 29-year-old Tyler Miller after watching him use a large metal street sign pole to break a door and several windows, according to court records. Miller was booked into the Multnomah County Jail and charged with 3 counts of criminal mischief in the first degree, serious felony charges.
And I had heard that he was going to be prosecuted, that he was going to spend some time, that we're going to send a message to the vandal community that we're not going to put up with this.
Next, ready, page 20, line 2, Asa Jaramillo.
Miller appeared in arraignment court roughly 14 hours later, where a Multnomah County judge explained that no court-appointed lawyers were available.
We are in a crisis in our state and not having enough public defenders to appoint every individual that appears before the court on any given day.
And as there's no attorney to appoint to him in this matter, and he's
A public defender who would represent Miller for just a few minutes during his arraignment asked for the charges to be dropped because Miller didn't have court-appointed counsel, as required by the Sixth Amendment. Instead of dismissing the charges, the judge postponed the case and asked Miller to come back in 6 weeks.
But at this point in time, you will be released.
For crime victims, this crisis in the criminal justice system can be devastating.
I really can't speak to how frustrating it is, and to have those guys there just cycled through is just ridiculous.
The shortage of public defenders is causing many criminal cases to drag on
We don't have an attorney today. We do not have enough attorneys.
because hearings are constantly being pushed back and trials delayed, extending the victim's trauma that much longer and eroding confidence in the criminal justice system.
The system has run amok.
Jordan Schnitzer had the windows in his downtown building smashed out too on September 27th,
The window was shattered this morning with glass inside and outside.
only to learn the defendant was released hours later.
Okay, what's the point of arresting anybody when they know they'll be back on the street and sort of, saying, to heck with you. You can't do anything to me.
Many defendants do get a public defender at arraignment, although court officials must prioritize those precious resources. Typically, preference goes to defendants who are in jail or those charged with more serious offenses.
So it's unsettling.
The frustration extends to police and prosecutors, who've seen serious criminal cases dismissed and defendants released for a lack of a public defender.
Yeah, there he is, back on the street. Yeah.
As a public defender, Willie Choteson's day is never really done.
A lot of times if I wake up, I think I'm having one day and then it becomes another day. I had a client released from jail unexpectedly not too long ago, and she called me and she had nowhere to go and no one else to call, and I dropped what I was doing and I went and met her at the jail with 2 granola bars that I had in my backpack, because that's what I had.
Despite the long hours, Choteson admits he can't catch up. There just aren't enough public defenders to go around.
We're all working as hard as we can. We're doing as much as we can, and it's not enough.
Oregon's system to provide criminal defense to those who can't afford it was understaffed and underfunded before COVID-19, but a backlog of pandemic-delayed cases has pushed the system to the brink of collapse.
There is a shortage of public defenders available.
In Multnomah County Arraignment Court, defendants often have their hearing dates postponed up to 2 months in hopes a public defender will be available later.
There is no attorney to appoint to you today.
A January report by the American Bar Association found Oregon has 31% of the public defenders it needs. Every existing attorney would have to work more than 26 hours a day to cover the caseload.
It's hard having too much work to be able to do, knowing what best practices would look like, but not having the time to do every single thing that would help my clients and help my cases.
For you personally, does it weigh on you?
Oh, absolutely. It's the middle of the night wake-ups of what are the things I need to do tomorrow, or what are the things I haven't been prioritizing, who do I need to call back?
This critical shortage of public defenders is not limited to Oregon. Similar problems are occurring in states across the country due to a lack of funding, a backlog of cases flooding the courts, and public defenders leaving for other jobs.
I started with a number of other attorneys, and I'm the only one still at this office from the people who started on the same day I did, because the work is so hard, because the work is underpaid, because the work is so much stress and vicarious trauma in a lot of ways.
In June, Oregon lawmakers approved $100 million for the troubled public defense system. Willie Choteson argues money is not the only solution. He believes criminal justice reform and alternatives to prosecution could ease some of the pressure on Oregon's judicial system.
There's not a shortage of attorneys. People are going to law school. They're just not choosing this work because it is hard, because it is stressful, because we are in the front lines, and because it is underpaid compared to other legal professions.
This crisis has left more than 1,000 criminal defendants in Oregon without legal representation, despite a constitutional right to have an attorney. In short, they're not getting the help they need and deserve.